I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because if you eat eggs regularly, and most people who follow a health-conscious lifestyle do, there are four things happening inside your body that nobody in the wellness space is talking about. Not because it's a secret, but because most people just don't know, and some of these things can be fatal. Eggs have been one of the most studied foods in the history of nutritional science, but here's the paradox. The more research comes out, the more confused the general public gets. And that confusion is creating habits that are silently damaging the body's internal systems, inflammation pathways, hormonal signaling, cellular repair mechanisms. Today I'm going to walk you through four specific mistakes that people make when consuming eggs, and more importantly, I'm going to tell you what's actually happening inside your body when you make them. The first mistake has nothing to do with how you prepare the egg. It has to do with the state your nervous system is in when you eat it. Eggs are one of the richest dietary sources of choline, a nutrient that plays a critical role in neurotransmitter synthesis, specifically acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is directly involved in the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest state. In a healthy body, consuming eggs in a calm, low-stress environment helps support this system. Your gut motility improves, nutrient absorption increases, cellular signaling runs more efficiently. But here's what changes when your cortisol levels are chronically elevated, which is a reality for a large portion of people in modern wellness culture, despite their best efforts. When cortisol is high, your digestive system deprioritizes enzymatic production. The specific enzymes responsible for breaking down the proteins in egg whites, proteases, are secreted in lower concentrations. This means the proteins don't fully denature and absorb. Instead, they ferment in the gut, producing ammonia byproducts that place a significant burden on the liver and kidneys. This isn't about eating eggs at a stressful moment once in a while. This is about what happens when the pattern becomes chronic. Over time, the body's detoxification burden accumulates. Before we go further, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I'm curious whether stress levels in your region are affecting how people in your community approach nutrition. The second mistake is subtler, and it has to do with something most people completely overlook when they crack an egg open. Look at the yolk color, not to judge freshness, but to read what it tells you about the hen's exposure to sunlight and carotenoid-rich vegetation. The deeper the orange, the higher the concentration of lutein, zeaxanthin, and astaxanthin. These aren't just antioxidants in the general sense, they are specifically mitochondria protective compounds. They reduce oxidative stress at the level of the cell's energy-producing organelles. Here's where the mistake comes in. People in the wellness space go out of their way to optimize their mitochondrial function. They take CoQ10 supplements, do cold exposure, practice intermittent fasting, time their sunlight exposure. But then they consistently buy the cheapest pale yolk eggs available and assume the nutritional profile is the same. It isn't. The mitochondrial membrane is particularly sensitive to lipid peroxidation, damage caused by free radicals reacting with fats. A pale yolk offers almost no photoprotective or antioxidant defense against this process. A deep orange yolk, rich in carotenoids, actively works against it. The cellular repair consequence is significant. Your mitochondria are not just your energy generators, they are gatekeepers of apoptosis, programmed cell death. When mitochondrial health is compromised chronically, the body's ability to identify and eliminate damaged or precancerous cells is reduced. This is not about organic certification labels. This is about the photon and phytonutrient environment the animal lived in, and how that environment is stored inside the egg. The third mistake is one that I genuinely believe is responsible for a significant number of unexplained wellness plateaus, and it involves something called avidin. Raw or undercooked egg whites contain a glycoprotein called avidin. Avidin binds to biotin, vitamin B7, with an extraordinarily high affinity. This bond is one of the strongest non-covalent interactions known in biochemistry. When you consume raw egg whites, avidin travels through your digestive tract still bound to any biotin it has encountered, preventing absorption almost entirely. Now, most people in the wellness space know this at a surface level. But here's the part they don't talk about. The mistake isn't just eating raw egg whites in a smoothie or a protein shake. The mistake is a subtler pattern, eating lightly cooked egg whites where the proteins haven't fully denatured, alongside biotin-dependent processes that the body is actively engaged in. Biotin is essential for fatty acid synthesis, gluconeogenesis, the process by which your body produces glucose from non-carbohydrate sources, and the metabolism of branched-chain amino acids. If you're someone who trains fasted, follows a low-carbohydrate protocol, or is managing blood sugar regulation, your biotin requirements are elevated precisely when your diet might be putting avidin in your system. The consequences show up gradually: hair thinning, neurological fatigue, skin barrier disruption. These symptoms are so nonspecific that they get attributed to dozens of other causes: stress, hormonal imbalance, overtraining, before anyone thinks to look at biotin status. Full heat deactivates avidin completely, but fully cooked means the white is entirely opaque and firm, no translucent or gelatinous areas. That standard matters more than people realize. Drop a comment below if you've ever experienced unexplained fatigue or hair changes while eating eggs regularly. I want to know if this pattern resonates with where you are. This is the one that changed how I personally think about egg consumption, and it relates to the intersection between dietary cholesterol, bile acid cycling, and the gut microbiome's role in hormonal metabolism. Egg yolks contain significant amounts of cholesterol, approximately 186 milligrams per large egg. The outdated narrative said this raised cardiovascular risk. The corrected narrative said dietary cholesterol doesn't affect blood cholesterol in most people, and the conversation largely stopped there. But there's a third chapter that almost nobody in the wellness community has explored. When you consume dietary cholesterol, your liver adjusts bile acid production in response. Bile acids are synthesized from cholesterol and secreted into the intestine to aid in fat digestion. After doing their job, they are reabsorbed and recycled, a process called enterohepatic circulation. Here's what matters. Your gut microbiome transforms these bile acids into secondary bile acids, some of which function as powerful signaling molecules, particularly for hormonal regulation and immune function. When you consistently eat eggs without supporting gut microbiome diversity, meaning without fiber-rich foods, fermented foods, and a varied plant-based component in your overall dietary pattern, the bacterial populations that perform this bile acid conversion become imbalanced. The downstream effect is a disruption in the signaling that regulates estrogen recycling, thyroid hormone availability, and inflammatory cytokine production. This is not a hypothetical cascade. This is an active area of research in functional medicine and microbiome science. The gut-liver axis, the biochemical communication highway between your microbiome and your liver, is profoundly influenced by the quality and context of your fat and cholesterol intake. So the mistake here is not eating eggs. The mistake is eating eggs in a dietary pattern that lacks the microbial support to process what comes with them. And that's a systems-level conversation that goes far beyond eggs are good or bad. Tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? And is gut health something your local wellness community talks about openly? I'm genuinely curious about the regional differences. Before you go, I want to give you something to hold on to from this conversation. Eggs are not the problem. They're one of the most nutrient-dense whole foods available. But consuming them without understanding your own physiological context, your stress load, your gut environment, your cooking method, the source quality, means you may be systematically blocking the very benefits you're eating them for. The four things we covered today: cortisol's impact on protein digestion, yolk quality and mitochondrial protection, avidin and biotin disruption, and the bile acid and microbiome connection. These are 4 frameworks you can apply starting with your next meal. If something in this video surprised you, or if you've been experiencing any of the symptoms I described, leave a comment. Tell me where you're from and what your egg routine looks like. I read every single one. And if you know someone who eats eggs every day and talks about health, share this with them. Not as an alarm, but as information they deserve to have.